It's me, Channel Dog. How are you doing? I am pretty giddy, as through Entertainment Weekly, in a strange marketing strategy, the annotated first 3 pages of the Spider-Man Brand New Day script have been released to the public, giving us a glimpse at the process behind the film, and also how we can expect the film to open up. And already there are elements of this script that have proven controversial among Spider-Man fans on social media, and I just kind of wanted to weigh in and give my 2 cents on it. One thing I really enjoyed here, though, was the annotations. These are not just notes from director Destin Daniel Cretton, you've also got notes from Brett Paulak, the director of photography, making different suggestions for how these scenes can be conveyed. You've also got notes from the line producer, and even a little cameo from Tom Holland. Which makes sense, as this is Tom Holland's first time producing a Spider-Man movie as well as starring in it. I'll leave the link to these pages in the description and pinned comment, and I'm going to just kind of talk about key details. But basically, to break it down, the Marvel Studios logo, where you usually have different artwork of the different Avengers flash up on screen, will instead be filled with footage of Ned and MJ's memories without Peter Parker being part of them, as he literally kind of fades out Back to the Future style. Kind of a recap of everything Peter's lost since No Way Home. And that's efficient storytelling, putting that all in the opening logo like that. Meanwhile, we open it up with a Peter Parker narration, which is him reading the letter that he wrote for MJ and originally planned to hand to MJ at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home at the donut shop. Here we see that he hasn't actually given that to her, and is instead just kind of reading it to himself, as he questions whether or not he wrote that for her or for himself. It's been 9 months, and we see all the new tech that Peter has had to make himself without any of the support of the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D. or Tony Stark. And this is the key part that has proven controversial among Spider-Man fans, because it's revealed that Peter has an AI, this time called Eevee. I wonder if Peter likes Pokemon. And there's an abundance of reasons why people have reacted the way that they have to this. I'm not going to say that the reaction is totally dumb or anything like that, but I do intend to kind of ground the conversation a little bit, if I may. I think tech in Spider-Man movies is largely dependent on how that tech is utilized and what purpose it serves in the story. But I think there's also some real-world contention at just the sight of the AI acronym. If you know me, you'll know that I am pretty fucking pissed off at how AI has been used to replace important jobs in previously lucrative industries. So the acronym AI tends to elicit an eye roll from artists and people in the creative industry. But let's not jump the gun here. Not every AI is generative AI. But I don't see Peter generating images of Spider-Man to hand to J. Jonah Jameson. I know that Spider-Man can be portrayed as a bit of a loser sometimes, but he's not that much of a fucking loser. This is more akin to just an AI that he has on his computer to crunch numbers, and I mean, like, that is pretty common. It's equivalent to asking your phone to do a calculation. Another reason why people are pretty unhappy about this, though, is that Spider-Man has been portrayed as incredibly tech-focused in the past decade. Whether it's the Spider-Man of the Insomniac games or the MCU Spider-Man over the Home trilogy, being pretty teched out with his stark gadgetry. Much like the real world, tech is pretty extraordinary, but it's the application of it that truly matters the most. I think something that definitely flew over a lot of the Home trilogy's detractors' heads is that tech was generally used to differentiate Spider-Man from Iron Man. Spider-Man Homecoming was all about how he tried to rely on the technology in the way that Iron Man does, and by the end of it, he proves himself using the bare minimum, and when he gets that Stark suit back, it is significantly less teched out. Obviously, in those Avengers movies, he does get the Iron Spider, which he then uses at the start of Spider-Man Far From Home, which once again kind of played into the theme of how Peter was kind of trying to shield himself on this vacation because he was utterly traumatized by what happened to Iron Man, and he feels like he needs to step into that position again. Then by the end of Far From Home, he has a significantly less teched out suit. I think people didn't really realize that the tech was only really incorporated into those first 3 movies to reinforce that Peter needs to rely on his own ingenuity and not Tony's. But I can also understand, with the big change in direction for Spider-Man Brand New Day, why someone might feel a bit disappointed to see that Spider-Man still does have some tech here and there. But from what we're seeing here, this is by no means a Jarvis or even a Karen from Spider-Man Homecoming. The intent of this AI is clearly not to help him with his superhero work, but in this case to narratively show his isolation from people, as mentioned in the annotations that state that Eevee is sadly the closest thing Peter has to a friend. The MCU has generally tried to avoid Peter just monologuing to himself, so they've given him lots of friends in the Home trilogy, and then there was Karen in Spider-Man Homecoming, who Peter monologued with with in the damage control room. These are generally used to contextualize Peter's monologuing. Is it entirely necessary in my opinion? No, if you have like a tone that can accommodate for a character that just monologues from time to time, you can make it work that way, but at the same time, this is fairly smart. So long as Evie doesn't turn into like a Jarvis tier AI, I'm okay with it. If it's just a little assistant that Peter has programmed on his computer through some coding, I mean, that lines up. That's very Peter Parker. Evie is not Peter's only bit of tech in this movie either. He's got his homemade web shooters that he has to load cartridges into, and he has a fabricator that restores his suit, described as like a 3D printer on steroids. But the notes state that this is a homemade fabricator. This is Peter's own version of it, and it says, something that would be made by a kid genius with limited funds. Now, I don't know if that was just a sarcastic in-joke there, or if these films are just in dire need of a poverty consultant. But I mean, it's the MCU, it's a fantastical universe at this point, highly technological. Who knows what's being thrown out? They established in Captain America Civil War that Peter Parker is a dumpster diver. Just making a regular 3D print, how would you even do that? I mean, he's a genius, I guess. But at the same time, I do think they might need a poverty consultant on these films, because that phone that Peter has at the start of the trailer is fuck expensive. Another thing we see is that Peter is having these very sharp headaches, implying that just living completely in the shadows is taking its toll on Peter. And I think that this is very early on the setup for Peter's mutation in this film. That's like the first sign of him gaining that organic webbing and kind of leveling up. We do know now that Man-Spider isn't going to be in the film, which to be fair is not something I took for granted, as this story is clearly based on The Other, and Man-Spider was not a part of the other storyline, it was just Peter evolving. I sure as hell hope they don't intend on adapting every single aspect of The Other, and you'll see why in a future video. But as it is, Man-Spider is not something I was taking for granted. The reasoning, however, is kind of lame. Allegedly, it was because they were worried that it'd be too scary for kids. To which I say, shut the fuck up. And we're kind of showcasing how Peter's life really right now is just him being Spider-Man. But he still longs for that Peter Parker life he once had. As far as an opening scene goes, this establishes all of the themes and dynamics that it needs to. Once again, very efficient storytelling going on here, so I'm not really too concerned about how they're going to fit the number of villains that they have into this film. I just hope that the film isn't overly fast-paced. I think we have had that problem with previous Spider-Man movies, especially like Far From Home and No Way Home. Homecoming, if anything, was the best paced of those, while the other two just hurtled through dozens and dozens of what could have been really cool cinematic moments. That said, they clearly plan on indulging in that if you look at the annotations. It's clear that their imaginations were alight coming up with the cinematography, what kind of shots they're going to use. It's no wonder that that first trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day was just on a visual level so much better than the Home Trilogy. At least in my opinion, you can make a case for the minimalism of the Home Trilogy. But nah, I want Spider-Man to go big, you know? There's also a note in here about how the Spider-Man costume is inspired by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, so yeah, that's as we suspected. It clearly looks to be the case. I think he had a favorite, though. I think Andrew Garfield was definitely Peter's favorite. Sheesh, Tobey, if you wore your good mask, maybe he would have seen more Tobey Maguire influence. And just to finish us up, Destin Daniel Cretton has said that Spider-Man Brand New Day is a movie about relearning how to connect with people, and that he's really excited to put it out into the world right now. And I gotta say, I'm kind of all over that. A couple of years ago, I moved to a new town, and I gotta admit, I feel like I've kind of stopped existing in the real world. Trying to make connections with strangers is absolutely daunting. And look, it's a movie that's about something. You have any idea how valuable that is in this decade? From what I'm seeing here, I'm not concerned about the tech angle. I guess I'm concerned about how they're going to convey the fabricator. But maybe the less questions we ask about that, the better. I mean, at the end of the day, how the fuck did Tobey's Peter Parker cast urethane webs to go all over his body? Maybe, at worst, we can chalk it up to movie magic. How are you feeling about Spider-Man Brand New Day so far? How do you feel about these 3 script pages? You comment below, discuss. Like the video, dislike the video, whatever you gotta do, hype it. That really helps, apparently. And now an extra special shout out to thank the patrons in the $5 and above tier. Very generous people, these. Manalza, KB, Twilord, Biotin, Sirius the Skeptic, and Mr. SP. K.O. Bennett, She Sells Seashells on the Seashore. Dare, Denny Sad, Goku, Ghostly Phantom, Xanderwolf, Channel Pup, Just Another Evil Robot Clone Claiming Discarded Naming Rights, Council of Geeks, SSSO6, Carlex, RT0, Marv Animation, Grant Allen, Josh Strider, Silver, Ben Raven, Basic Content, Gideon Wells, Pressplater Jason, Joseph Tribble, and Cho Henshin. I see that K.O. Bennett tried to trip me up there. Very clever, but you have to get up pretty early to fool me. Yeah. No, but really, thank you folks so much for your generosity, and to the rest of you, there's plenty of videos on my channel. It's a regular smorgasbord of discussion, so go check it out. Peace.